Is God of War Laufey exactly what this franchise needs right now, or is Santa Monica Studio making a mistake by moving away from Kratos as the main protagonist? Is Faye the perfect choice for the franchise currently? What does this mean for the future of Kratos and the series as a whole? And how does God of War Laufey connect to the previous God of War games? Stick around to find the answers to all of those questions, and way more. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Only Thing Gaming channel. Most of you have probably witnessed the backlash God of War Laufey had after its reveal in the latest State of Play from Sony. This reveal caused some controversy. Some people think Faye is a well-written character that can carry a whole game titled God of War, while others think this is just an agenda. They're trying to replace Kratos with a female character and they're trying to appeal for the woke ideology. And I'm going to discuss this whole situation from two different perspectives. A lore-wise perspective that looks at this decision creatively only from the inside of the game, and a real-life perspective that looks at this decision from outside the game, and compare it with other video games and media that followed the same pattern. After the end of God of War Ragnarök, the series reached an impasse with Kratos. It became harder to take his story forward without making it feel forced. They had two options I can think of: either make an Atreus game where Atreus gets into trouble and that puts Kratos on a new journey to rescue or protect his son again, or make a new game with Kratos himself. And with good writing and creative choices, those options could both work. But here are the problems with them. The Atreus scenario is too typical, expected, and cliché. And on top of that, his character isn't developed enough to carry a whole God of War entry on his back. Some people don't even like him, me included. That leaves Kratos. I already explained in a previous video how he can move to protect his son or his people. And aside from being the easy way out, there are two problems with this scenario. It's hard to make this transition to a new pantheon mid-game. They can't just fit Kratos learning about a problem, start figuring out how to travel, consult with Tyr and Freya, and reach new lands only in the intro of their game. They need a whole game to set up this transition, and that whole game creates the second problem. They can't make one more game in the Norse setting. We can't keep going back to the Norse or Greek pantheons anymore because there's nothing left to do in them. And time skipping to Kratos rowing his boat as he reaches the shores of Egypt, for example, will raise more questions about the series. So, they had to come up with something more creative, a third unexpected solution: Faye. Now God of War Laufey is not only the bridge that's going to connect all the pantheons of the God of War universe, but also Faye is the perfect protagonist to take the series forward, because we know very little about her. She's just like a white paper. They can write her character however they want, and use that to eliminate any inconsistencies in the narrative. For example, when the higher plane of existence or the afterlife of the gods was first mentioned by Athena in God of War 3, we learned that only gods who perform selfless acts or sacrifices reach it. But the series didn't say that Faye was a goddess, and that's the thing, it also didn't say she was not. I don't think she will turn out to be a goddess though. I think ending up in this place has to do with the pyre, or it's related to her being one of the Jotnar. Also, the afterlife of the gods included evil gods as we saw. That contradicts with what Athena said about selfless acts. Athena's motive was to trick Kratos to open Pandora's box, kill Zeus, and then give her both the power of the box and Olympus. So she was most likely lying about this. I wanted to highlight that because most God of War fans believe that selfless act nonsense when literally all we heard from Athena after her death were lies. I also talked about how she changed in a previous God of War video, so make sure to check it out after this one. Now, I know that some people didn't like this new direction, because God of War is the title of the game and Kratos being the God of War was always connected to that title. And I know the game is going to get criticized for not making Kratos its protagonist, but let's be honest here. I think this sacrifice is a reasonable and creative way to take the series forward, because I believe this will not only explain how Faye helped Kratos and Atreus through their journey where they changed their fate and escaped the giant's prophecy, the events of this game will extend to cover Ragnarök, and that explains why Kratos was seeing Faye in his dreams. I always thought that her story was finished after God of War 2018, but after this reveal, I rewatched some of her cutscenes in Ragnarök, and this dialogue caught my attention.
Time is running out, my love, and there is much to do.
She told him that time is running out when Atreus was roaming the frozen woods as a bear with a huntress lurking around, and Thor and Odin visited his home shortly after. I believe she needed to move him to save Atreus in that moment. And I also believe God of War Laufey is going to explain a lot of interactions from God of War 2018 and Ragnarök. Maybe we finally learn who blew the horn, or maybe Faye had something to do with Magni not returning to life. I broke down the whole reveal and talked more about those connections in this video, so make sure to check it out if you're interested. For now, she might put Kratos on the path to his next journey. He even told Mimir that Faye is trying to tell him something. So we might learn more about that in this new entry. For the past few years, we've been seeing Sony's new direction to turn most of the leading characters in their games into females, and I think it's too early to say that's the whole case here. Because as we discussed in the first perspective, Faye's character was well written and built since God of War 2018, and they kept a lot of details hidden, most likely on purpose. We don't even know how she died, when her death was the event that started this whole journey. So this game didn't just come out of nowhere, and Faye's character isn't just a random choice. However, some people's problem with this game is that it uses the name God of War, but doesn't include Kratos as the main character. For me, I think it's fine if they had one game led by Faye, because there's a big difference between having her lead one game and having her take over and continue with the series. And the title, God of War, now refers to this whole universe, not just Kratos, so it's reasonable for them to use this title because it's a brand at this point, and I'm personally fine with it. I don't expect them to make a game and say, hey, this is our new God of War game that explains many things about the series and Kratos' journey, but we decided not to use the title God of War. I think that would be even more confusing. And let's address the elephant in the room. You probably have seen people speak about gender, feminism, and woke stuff. And I think people are not upset that the leading character is Faye, a female. They're more upset that the leading character is not Kratos himself. I think if the protagonist was Atreus or any other male character, we would have seen a similar reaction. I also think we would see a similar reaction if Tomb Raider replaced Lara Croft or Horizon replaced Aloy. And honestly, I've seen a lot of valid concerns online about the game, because Sony already established this pattern with most of their games. We've seen this with The Last of Us, Uncharted, Ghost of Yotei, and many other games. And not only that, most of the entertainment products that did this transition were not so well received. Just look at She-Hulk for example. However, I'm ready to accept one God of War game without Kratos if it serves the series, but I won't accept it leaving Kratos behind. But for now, they confirmed that Kratos is still the main character of the series and he's getting his own games. However, I didn't like the game's new vibes. It leans more into bright colors and comedy, and I hope they change that by the time the game comes out, because God of War games were always serious, with few exceptions shown in some interactions with Mimir and the dwarves. Now usually, I don't like addressing this kind of commotion, because no matter what you say, some people will not agree with you, and that's not the problem. In fact, that's very okay. The problem is, some people might take things way too far and start to attack you personally and accuse you of things I won't even mention here. With that said, I think it's still early to worry about Sony's established pattern with their games the last few years, and I think the best move here is to give them the benefit of the doubt and just see this game through and be done with it, so that we can get to the good stuff with God of War. Because this series is a different case for Sony. I genuinely don't think they're ready to ruin their biggest IP for woke agenda, and I can see how this game has the potential to take the series forward. I think we've highlighted how this change can be what the series needs in this video, and I truly hope they do the right thing and use this game to serve the series in the best possible way. Because I believe lore-wise, Faye is the perfect protagonist, and I'm not saying she's better than Kratos. I wouldn't dare. I'm just saying if they want to give Kratos a break, she's the best choice the series has. She is close to both Kratos and Atreus, she has a history with Thor, she knows Kratos' past, and they've been preparing her character and brewing her mysteries since God of War 2018. And Thor should have been killed by the Leviathan axe, which would have also made Thor's encounter with Faye many years ago more understandable. She couldn't kill him because she had the axe but not the serpent's poison. This would have implied that Laufey the Just was indeed a strong warrior. And outside of lore and creative, it's too early to say that this game will flop or ruin the God of War series. I don't think it's going to sell as much as God of War 2018 or Ragnarök, but it also won't be a complete disaster. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to check out my other God of War videos. I'll leave the links in the description. My last video was pretty interesting. I broke down the reveal and talked about many interesting storylines. Don't forget to check it out. Also, make sure to like, subscribe, and tell me what you think about the future of the series in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.